Rise and shine, winners. The Jaguars are 5-3. We're going to talk about all the gritty traits and good things that came out of yesterday's game here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get those podcasts that you listen to or watch. We will be right there. Make sure you do not miss an episode like the one today that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Shout out and what up to the everydayers. We appreciate you joining us. We don't take your presence for granted. And if you're new here, we'll make you an everyday. All you got to do is just come back and hang out with us. But we're happy to have you here too. Here's what we're going to discuss. Well, the Jaguars are 5-3. That's what we're going to discuss. And at the end of the show, we'll talk about how the next man up mentality manifested itself yesterday in Las Vegas for Jacksonville. The offense hits 30-point mark again, hits that mark again for only the second time this year. And they did it against a real good team the first time, and then a not so good team the second time, but that's okay. Gritty traits show up when needed. That's where we're going to start. We have discussed this over and over again, this team needing to find an identity. That's exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars have been able to do this year. And one of those traits that's seeming to come up is, and I know if you want to look at it negatively, you can say, man, they keep being in these games, man, and not giving themselves a chance to have an easy day. Well, guess what? Whoop-de-doo. I guess that's what they're saying now, right? Whoop-de-doo. They don't need to make it easy. They need to make it win. That's what they need to do. They need to make it win, and that's exactly what they have managed to do. But I don't know if people realize the ramifications. I certainly didn't realize that yesterday was only the second time that they had hit the 30-point mark in a game. So we'll make sure we discuss that too. But week one, 26-10 against Carolina, they were in control. Weather delay was real weird, right? Week two, close loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, a game that they probably should have won. Week three, one-score game against Houston, and Houston was in the red zone, and they got an interception at the end of that game. Another close game out in San Francisco where they had all of these turnovers, but somehow the 49ers had the ball threatening to score. Kansas City scored very late in the game, and then if Hollywood Brown turns around, they might have lost if they'd have caught that ball. Another thriller. The Seahawks game was ugly, but it was still a one-score game, right? The Rams game is the one that got away. We'll just throw that one out. But yesterday, again, they win in overtime 30-29 on a batted ball. I don't know what I'd be sitting here telling you if Devon Hamilton hadn't gotten his hand up. I'd have been wondering who the hell lost that wide receiver. Dude was literally 5 to 6 yards, maybe even 7 yards behind the nearest Jaguar defender, standing there all by himself in the end zone. But guess what? Almost doesn't count. The Jaguars win the game because Devon Hamilton does bat that ball down. What they have shown you is it is going to be an exciting game each and every time. What they've also shown you is outside of the Rams game that we said we're going to get rid of that one, they're 5-2 in games decided by, well, technically, no, they're not 5. They're 4-2 in games decided by one touchdown because, like I said, the opener was against Carolina. They won by 16. This kind of shows you something. It shows you that in the biggest moments, when it is most needed, their grit shows up. Their want to, their will to win, never quitting on each other, playing for each other. And somehow, some way, I don't even know how this happens. They actually play more efficiently when they're in these close games. I was just sitting there waiting for a false start or a legal procedure or something on that last drive in regulation when Cam Little ended up kicking that 48-yarder. Bad snap, by the way. Another almost Jaguar thing. But like we say, almost doesn't count. Almost doesn't count when you almost win, and it doesn't count when you almost make a mistake that costs you the game. The bottom line is it's a game of inches. It's a game of certain moments, and it happened in a good way for Jacksonville. We're going to celebrate that. We're going to celebrate that. And because it keeps happening for them in these moments, it just shows you something. And yesterday, it really, really showed a lot for me. I really want to get in on that offense a little bit because I want to look at it from a positive standpoint in segment number 2, and that's what we'll do. But first, man, when they need a play to happen, they seem to make it at the end of games. Yesterday in overtime, they seem to be able to make the play, missing 4 or 5 guys on defense, 3 or 4 guys on offense. They just dug deep down and found a way. And I think that's a good characteristic because it shows that they're not quitting. They believe. If it's right there in their grasp, they're going to, it might not work all the time, especially against better teams, but they are going to look that thing right in the eye and they won't blink. Those are all good characteristics. We can talk all day about them jumping off sides and the clock running down and waiting too late to get the play in and waiting too late to get the huddle. And then Trevor canning plays and the clock almost running out and them being rushed. Yesterday, they had a situation where the ball got hiked and Trevor didn't even expect it. So there's while we talk about all of those things and we talk about the penalties and the lack of discipline sometimes, and we say, well, that's coaching. You're right. You know what else coaching? You know what else is coaching? Not quitting. Not quitting is a direct reflection of coaching and football character. Not quitting is it shows you who they are to and for each other. When you take the media and the fans out of the locker room, the bottom line is the only people that are out there trying to get this done are the players and the coaches. And they're able to compartmentalize all of the good, all of the bad. And at the right moment and at the biggest moments in these games, they've been putting their best foot forward. Sometimes it looks like they're hanging on by a string. It doesn't matter. That's their string. That's the string that they built. And they know where that string is. Hey, I would love, if you ain't got but one lifeline, at least you know where to grab onto it, and all of y'all going to hold on to it together until y'all get it right. And that's exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars have done, and they're shaping themselves up to have a little bit of an identity, this gritty gang, a gritty gang of guys, very, very similar to 2017 in a sense. It's not apples to apples, but because the 2017 team, you couldn't even run the ball. They was just that good, right? But shaping up to be the team that has the sort of mentality that team had. And I don't like comparing things or going in the past too much, but I will tell you, those are the type of things. I think back to whenever this team was galvanized and strengthened together. You remember Mojo, even back before that, I think it was 08, Mojo D and Garrard going up to Pittsburgh. Just a gritty team that has this knack for doing things in critical moments. We'll talk about the offense hitting the 30-point mark for the second time this year. Shocking, isn't it? It seems like we know they've struggled a little bit on the offense, but we didn't think that they struggled that much. This was only the second time that they have hit the 30-point mark. Why that needs to change and what happens if it doesn't change. We'll discuss that and more here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, and today's show is also sponsored by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trade Master perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process even smoother. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and the dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for the free and use promo code SH, stands for Supply House, NFL, SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's right. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use that promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people in real service. Moving along here, segment number 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars win 30-29 on a game that took us on a bit of a roller coaster ride on Sunday in Las Vegas. It was a very Las Vegas-ish type game, if you will. The way that game went yesterday is typical of any visitor I've ever had to Las Vegas. That's kind of how it went. It kind of went up and down, and then I left happy. So I usually do a pretty good job for myself when I go to Vegas visiting friends, and I did not go yesterday, but it felt like I was there in spirit because the Jacksonville Jaguars did a very Duval thing. They just didn't quit. They absolutely didn't quit. One of the things that helped is they were able to hit the 30-point mark. Needed overtime to do it, but it does not matter. They still got that done. And the Raiders decided to go for 2 at the end of the game to try to win the game. They had a bunch of momentum. The Jaguars could not stop them whatsoever. And that is also why we need to not gloss over this. When the Jaguars had a 4th and you know what in overtime, they went for the touchdown and Trevor dove for the touchdown. I got a feeling that Liam Cohen grew up in that moment because he had seen what had happened in the fourth quarter. The Jaguars couldn't stop Oakland. I mean, Las Vegas, we call it Oakland, but they couldn't stop him. Brock Bowers was as good as any tight end I've ever seen on yesterday, and I think he's going to be. Y'all remember back in 2023, at the start of the 23 season, I asked Jaguar fans, would y'all trade the 2024 first-round pick right now for the rights to Brock Bowers? And people went all crazy on me. Okay, what do you think how do you think that would have worked out? And I love Britton Strange, but I'm just trying to tell you, that dude is a monster, and you saw what an alpha player looks like. So whether you're Brian Thomas Jr. or Travis Hunter watching on TV, I know it's a different position. But that's how you dominate games, and given the opportunity, I hope the Jaguars find somebody that can do that. Offense hits 30 points, and the reason why this is super, super important is because Liam Cohen, to me, knew that he needed a touchdown. There were people saying, just take the 3, depending on your defense. Nope. I think he knew they were beaten up in their secondary. They just had to survive. The worst thing that was going to happen is they're going to get beat by a touchdown on a 2-point conversion in a very, very short period of time because the Jaguars used up most of the clock in overtime. He made the right call. If you're going to beat us, you're going to drive 99 yards and you're going to beat us. Or in this case, they probably would have only have needed, if the Jaguars did not convert the touchdown on 4th down, then they probably wouldn't. Well, they went for it on 4th down and they got a 1st down and then Trevor scored. The Raiders probably would have made a field goal. You didn't have to hold them to a touchdown. Then, when you did score the touchdown, because you scored that touchdown, now they got to score a touchdown, and then they have to go for 2. And that's exactly what the Raiders did. The Jaguars played it exactly how it was supposed to be played. They did every single thing right that they were supposed to do, and they held on. Devon Hamilton got that big paw up, man, but Talking about the offense, I like the desperation that they played with. I like Parker Washington. I like that they led with, okay, look, Brian Thomas Jr., you're going through whatever you're going through, even though he did have a big play in the fourth quarter. Look, Parker Washington, Travis Etienne, Basho Tootin when we need you, take us home, get us there. Hunter Long dropped a touchdown that would have gave him a touch. Nope. We're going to play the hits. We're going to go with these guys right here, and y'all need to get us home. And, of course, Trevor Lawrence, who used his legs a lot. It was very similar to the Kansas City game when he really started to use his legs and get loose a little bit offensively. But what I hope this team learned is, even though I just talked about lead dogs, and I'll get to that and I'll tie this in together, I hope what they decide to do is don't use too much time trying to get BT involved. Don't use too much time trying to make sure you justify drafting Travis when Travis does come back. I think you just run your offense, and I think the alphas will be the alphas. I think you have to consciously know, okay, I got this guy over here, I got this matchup. But we saw yesterday that when they just run their offense, it doesn't mean that you're going to let 5, 7, 8, 9 people touch the ball on every drive. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be conscious of where your guys are and what matchups they have. I think your offense is going to be designed to take advantage of those things anyway. But sometimes it's better to watch. And it didn't seem like yesterday they were purposely trying to get someone involved. Like the Rams game in the second half, you saw them trying to get Travis involved. And I think they were trying to get him involved because nothing else would work, and you have to just go to your best player. Early in the season, I think they were trying to get BT going in some games after he appeared to struggle. And that's because you kind of envision what this thing looks like. And one of the ways that you envisioned this team looking was that BT wasn't a problem. In fact, he was something that you could go there first and it could cause the defense to shift. And then all of these other things would open up. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be in the let's set this thing up or let's set these plays up mode as much anymore. And they probably will still do it because that's just the way sequencing goes when you're play calling and you're trying to take advantage of the things that you do well versus the things that another team doesn't. But I do believe now it's going to just be, look, if we trust each other, if we all just get out here and do our job and trust number 16 that he's going to go through his progressions. And I know he takes you up and down on a little bit of a roller coaster, but he didn't yesterday after when the second half started. Because even in the second half, even at halftime, I was questioning some things. You had Hall of Famers on TV questioning some things. The bottom line is he proved Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long and Michael Strahan right. They all said before the game that one of the things that they did extremely well was when they were sick and they didn't feel well that they played better. And quick story, in my younger days as a barber, I used to go out to the club all the time. Only it was my client's fault because everybody wanted to go out and hang with the barber, right? Because they know everybody. I never stood in line. I haven't stood in line to get in a nightclub in 30 years, right? And I don't go clubbing that often anymore. But whenever I go, because, reputation I have mostly as a barber, not even as someone doing radio, and a guy who used to be on the scene with my hand in promotion a little bit. I've been able to establish a lot of relationships to where I don't stand online. So everybody wants to hang out with the barber back in the day. And I used to hang out and go up in VIPs and all of this stuff. And I would stay out too late sometimes. And I'm going to get to this real quick and draw the parallel between Trevor. And I would literally walk into the barbershop on a Saturday morning with less than an hour of sleep, just enough to take a power nap, take a shower, and come in. Eyes still red, and people would laugh. They're like, oh, here he goes again. Y'all going to get a great haircut today. And see, that's the point that I want to make. I knew because I was tired and probably still altered a little bit from the night before that I had to do every single thing right. Those are the best haircuts I ever gave. Now, I didn't like being in that state because nobody likes to work when they're tired, so you don't voluntarily do it. But it was always me being as fundamentally sound as I absolutely could because I knew I had to. I felt like if I screwed this up, I'm going to lose a client because I stayed out too late. And I could not have that on my book. I think that's what happened to Trevor a little bit yesterday. I think Trevor was sick. His wife, Marissa, said that he was throwing up all night long and they were both sick, and she doesn't know how he went out and played. But that's that middle South Georgia, whatever it is, grit that I'm talking about with Trevor Lawrence, and how we have to reimagine and reinvent who he is and what he is. And I'm fine with that. I ain't got no problem with the fact that he ain't all of this other stuff, right? As long as he can do what he did yesterday and be in the moment, I think the Jaguars will be okay, man. And we just have to hope that this is a part of their continuous growth and identity. Next man up mentality is going to mean a lot moving forward. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, man. Look, it's 9 weeks. We're past the halfway point of the NFL. I know y'all think y'all running out of sports, but the NBA is back, so there's nothing to worry about, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, because there's action every single day in the National Basketball Association. It is the official sports betting partner of the NBA is FanDuel, and even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, checking in with y'all here on a Winners Monday. We have been discussing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gritty trait showing up when needed. Offense hits 30 points again. There's 2 wins. Kansas City and Oakland, the Raiders, 2 straight wins when they've scored over 30 points. Maybe that's telling you something. Just get to 30. They're going to need to score more points because the defense is banged up. I know it's trade deadline is coming tomorrow. We already saw a trade earlier today where Jalen Phillips was traded from the Miami Dolphins to the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman will make a trade for you, won't he? We'll see what the Jaguars do, whether they want to elevate from within, from the practice squad. That worked out for them yesterday with both Trammell as well as Tim Jones. 2 guys that stepped up when their names got called, and they made big plays yesterday for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the fourth quarter, and Tim Jones and Trammell in overtime with the kickoff return. So all of this stuff, man, is contingent on trust. It shows the progress of the team, the next man up mentality. They've been challenged because the safety position, they're banged up. The corner position, they're banged up. Of course, you know Travis Hunter is on IR for the next couple of weeks. They've been playing without Brenton Strange. It almost makes you wonder, okay, if we get everybody back and we get BT back totally, mentally, and the offensive line is able to get a little bit healthier, how good could they really be? Of course, Trayvon has the contraption on his left hand. He used his right hand yesterday to get kicked out when he punched somebody. So I'm sure he's ready to make amends for that. But getting guys back, don't even mention Devin Lloyd, who was the NFL Defensive Player of the Month the first 4 weeks of the season. They're going to need to get people back. There's a chance that they may have to play through some of these injuries. So it depends on what they are willing to do in the trade market and how much additional depth that they can add. They've already swapped out cornerbacks. Greg Newsome played pretty good yesterday. You can see he's a little bit more of a sticky player than Tyson Campbell, and that is working out in the Jaguars' favor. But yeah, there's a lot that they need to do. The next man up mentality worked fine yesterday. That continues to be something that will be tested and stretched as the Jaguars move forward. It's going to be interesting to see who comes back, though. Tim Patrick is now going to be a welcome back addition to the wide receiver core. Diami went down again yesterday, went to the locker room. I'm sure today we'll get all of the reports in terms of what their health and what their status is moving forward. But hopefully they can start tightening this thing up a little bit and get guys back, and then they won't lose a bunch of games. They got Houston, and Houston is another team that is reeling a little bit. They got a bad offensive line. They lost another game yesterday, and the quarterback got dinged up, got a concussion, so he's going to be in a concussion protocol. He may be available for the game in Houston this week, and he may not be. Either way, the Jaguars need to be prepared because the last time they played primarily the entire game without against the team without its starter, that was Jake Browning, and Jake Browning roasted him until he was benched for Joe Flacco up in Cincinnati. So don't think that because someone's there and hurt or not there that it gives them some kind of a big advantage. They got to go out each and every week, man, and get it done. Because if you don't, you can get beat. Just ask Detroit, who lost yesterday to a quarterback who hadn't played in a month, and J.J. McCarthy. It can happen any week to anybody in the National Football League. So the next man up mentality is going to be a big deal. At the very least, they're not banged up on the defensive line without, other than Trayvon. So that does help alleviate some. They need to get some more pass rush going. It'll be interesting to see if they do anything in the trade market for that. Get Devin Lloyd back. The safety position. It's going to be key that Eric Murray is able to move forward because Eric Murray has been a very, very good player for the Jaguars. And he's now been banged up and he keeps trying to play. And it seems like he keeps hurting the same thing over and over again. So they need better play out of Antonio Johnson. Dewey Wingard had some good plays, but then he has some that makes you scratch your head. Ventrell Miller has been flying around, and that's a good thing for the Jaguars. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars try to hold on to him too as their third linebacker. So we'll see if they can get that done. But I just think that this team has a way that they're ready and a way that they're built to play. And if it gets dirty, if it gets muddy, so be it. I wouldn't even mind a couple of bad playing surface games as long as nobody gets banged up. I think the more the waters are muddy, the better. Just imagine now if they can go up and get this game against Houston, that's 3-0 in the division with 2 games left against the Titans. No, that would be incorrect. That would be 2-0 in the division if they could go up and beat Houston because they haven't played anybody else in the division yet. Yeah, so they still got 2 games against the Titans and they have 2 games left against the Colts. It'll be a good thing for them to go up 2-0. I think they're going to beat the Titans twice. Obviously, it's the NFL, so anything can happen. And then they got a chance to beat the Colts twice. And if they get that done, man, they are in a catbird seat for this division. I told you, if they go 5-1 or 6-0, I think they're going to win the division. So we'll see how it goes. Good game for the Jaguars, 5-3. It was a lot of ugly, but I decided to go real positive today on the show for all of those people that love positivity. But no, I'm going to say things sometimes when the team doesn't play well and when people don't play well, but when they do, I'm going to give them credit. So there you go. I'm giving them credit. All right, man. So make sure you tap in all week. We'll be here. We'll wait for any injury news or trade news. If there's any trade news, we'll make sure we break that to you on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man. We don't take you for granted. A little bit over 28 minutes here today with me. We appreciate you for joining us, and we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars.